seen him many times.
But I just like, I've been gone for so long. Certainly.
I hear about it. You know, I've watched them from time to time.
Almost, Jane.
I just was one day earlier this year. You know, I'm gonna go to their schedule. They're just out there in they're going to be on Lodi in December.
Okay, probably at Fairmont Church. Okay.
Okay, close enough. Welcome, good evening. This is the forum for the Stockton City Council candidates for Districts 1, 3, and 5. The League of Women Voters of San Joaquin County is sponsoring this forum, and we thank the City of Stockton for allowing us to hold and videotape the forum in the city's council chambers. My name is Jane Wagner-Tyack, and I'll be the moderator for the forums this evening. Each forum will be 45 minutes long. Candidates will have 1 minute each for their opening statement, 2 minutes for closing comments, and 1.5 minutes to respond to each question from the panelist. A timekeeper will keep track of the time, raising placards when there is 30 seconds left, 15 seconds left, and a stop when it's time to stop. Panelists will pose the same question to each candidate, and each candidate will have a chance to answer first in rotation. For example, candidate A will answer question 1 first, candidate B will answer question 2 first, and so on. And the candidates have already drawn numbers to determine their order for opening and closing statements. Audience members, I'd like to ask you please to hold applause until the forum is completed. If there's applause each time a candidate speaks, we have less time for questions to be answered. And then after the forum, we can show our appreciation to both candidates for their participation tonight. Also, please turn off your cell phones. I just realized I hadn't turned mine off, so I did. So please turn off your cell phones. Okay, I'd like to introduce the panelists for this evening. Our panelists are Diane Vigil of the Greater Stockton Chamber of Commerce, Kathy Casanave of the League of Women Voters, and Dave Renison of the San Joaquin Taxpayers Association. That was off, right? Good. And I don't want to forget to remind you to be sure and register to vote by October 20th. If you have a California driver's license, you can register online, and that's www.sos.ca.gov. Okay, so let's get started with the opening statements, and the first statement will be from Mr. Grewal. Grewal.
It's all good.
I asked him twice. Mr. Grewal. And then the second opening statement will be from Mr. Holman. So you have 1 minute.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Rick Grewal. I grew up in Stockton. I'm a local businessman, and I'm dedicated to serving this community. And I feel that my experience in the business field will help create new jobs while guiding economic growth here in Stockton. I have the experience in the business field, in the construction field, in retail, in restaurants, and even in the aviation business. I was the founder of Delta Flying Club. I'm also co-owner of Kingdon Airport and also Kingdon Drags, which has a rich history in California. I've served as a volunteer surveillance pilot for the San Joaquin County Sheriff's Air Patrol Unit for about 8 years, and I've served as commander of the Air Posse in 2008. And I belong to many nonprofit organizations, and I've served on the board of Twin Creeks Homeowners Association, and I've been married for 20 years, and I have a father of 2 children. And as a father, I'm concerned for the safety of my family and my community, and I'm running for office because I feel that public safety has been jeopardized, and too many people have been killed, and this is an outrage, and I can no longer
We've got the
watch
stop sign
this
up.
city that I love.
Mr.
Thank
Grewal,
you.
we have the stop sign up. And I wanted also to ask you all, please lean toward the microphone so that your voice can be picked up better.
Okay, that's fine. to speak.
We could throw it at the wall or something.
Having a little technical difficulty. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Mr. Holman,
Yes,
1
ma'am.
minute.
Thank you. I want to say that I'm happy to be here today, and I'm happy that this process has been established, that the candidates can stand before you or sit before you and allow you to visually see who they are and what they are about. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Stockton, born and raised here. Came from a family of 10. I have 9 brothers and sisters. I married my high school sweetheart, and we've been married for 46 years. We have 2 daughters and 7 grandchildren. My professional life was in law enforcement. I was with the San Joaquin County Sheriff's Department for 20 years, San Joaquin District Attorney's Office for 14 years, a total of 34 years. And when I left the District Attorney's Office, I was the chief of the Investigations Division, responsible for all the investigations that occur within the District Attorney's Office. And I've been on the council now for 6 years.
Thank you. All right, the first question will be asked by Mr. Renison. And Mr. Renison, you'll be addressing your question first to Mr. Holman and then to Mr. Grewal.
All right, thank you. Earlier today, the city's bankruptcy attorney told the judge that the city achieved settlements with several huge creditors within 6 months of mediation. Yet during Stockton's bankruptcy court hearing on May 27, 2013, former city manager Bob Dice testified that he never once sought to modify the city's obligation to CalPERS, that he never attempted to negotiate with CalPERS, and that the city did not explore other pension alternatives. Health insurance benefits for city retirees had to be eliminated because no one sought for a middle ground, and Mr. Dice was apparently unwilling to search for that middle ground on pensions. As a result, the residents of Stockton have to suffer cutbacks in basic services to protect outrageous pensions. How will you govern on similar matters that impact so many lives?
That's a question that, Mr. Renison, that in order for me to answer that question adequately, I would have to talk about things that are really pending right now in the court. But I will say this.
Let's please not have audience interrupting.
Thank you. But I will say this. Pensions are definitely a huge issue within our makeup here in the city of Stockton. Not only is Stockton bankrupt, as you know, as soon as pensions reform was mentioned, we lost 99 police officers. We can't afford to do that. So we do have to do something with pensions, but we have worked out in our pendency plan or our plan of adjustment a mechanism to deal with the pension issue in Stockton right now. And so I will leave it at that, because if I say any more, we will be encroaching on issues that are pending in the court right now.
Mr. Grewal.
At our last forum,
Please lean forward a little bit.
At our last forum, Mr. Holman said that you need not know good business to know business, or be a businessman to know good business. And I agreed with him that, hey, he knows good business for himself. He takes home $164,000 in pension and $25,000 from the city, and he gets medical benefits. That's over $200,000. While he voted to take pensions away and medical benefits from city employees. Now, the difference between Mr. Holman and I is that I struggle to pay thousands of dollars into the system every year, while he takes. Under his watch, we lost 100 police officers, and he voted for $1.5 million to spend money on cars that were out of this city instead of tax money here. So talking about back on pensions, I believe that we have to keep our promises, and I will keep my promises if they're made if I make it to council.
Thank you. The next question will come from Ms. Casanave and to Mr. Grewal first.
What ideas do you have for the city so that prospective employers with living wage jobs would locate here in Stockton?
Well, right now, we're having a little bit more of a mass exodus. People are leaving here, and more people are leaving, so we don't know what the results of the bankruptcy is going to be. And I've talked to a few friends of mine and said, hey, why don't you come and invest in Stockton? And they're like, no way. And actually, I'm at the verge of leaving Stockton, so I want to make a last-ditch effort to actually stay here and fight for the citizens of this city and the struggle to make the right decisions. So what I will do is relax regulations, lower fees, and many other things, tax and credits, and roll out the red carpet to new businesses.
Mr. Holman?
That's interesting. We have lowered fees, but we have to be careful. We're in bankruptcy. We owe millions of dollars to creditors. If we start closing up revenue streams that can come in, it will adversely affect our bankruptcy position, in that our creditors will be able to say that there's money that you could have gotten that you could have paid us with. So it's a very thin line between how this city operates and still involve and operate in a bankruptcy environment. No one person is going to be able to come in to this council, be it me, be it Mr. Grewal, be it anybody, that's going to come in here and be able to change things on their own like that, like he's trying to tell you he's going to do. It takes being able to work in consensus with your staff, working with your consultants, and working with the people around you to come up with the best decision which is plausible for this city. You have to understand, this is the 13th largest city in the state of California. There are 480 cities in this state, and yet we were 1 month away from being able to make payroll. That's how bad this city was under.
And you've been here 6 years and you've been messing it up all that.
Please, we need to fit as many questions in as possible. Why don't you wait and we'll see if your question gets asked.
If he continues, he should be asked to leave.
Yeah, that's true.
The next question will come from Ms. Vigil and be directed to Mr. Holman first.
As one of the 7 votes on the council, how would you garner support from city council colleagues to support public-private partnership as it pertains to economic development?
I think public-private partnerships are a real key to economic development. The big thing, though, is that the private sector has to be able to pencil out for the private sector. And there are so many things in this bankruptcy environment that are keeping us from making the decisions or changing the operating procedures to help them to make things pencil out. But I have to say that things are getting better. As we move along, we've set up a tax credit initiative. We have set up a new economic development director, a young man by the name of Micah Runner, who is very, very good and doing a great job right now as far as helping us in our economic development. It's going to be a slow process. This city was really in debt, and this city was really under. You're not going to come out of this overnight like some people claim that they can do. It's a work in progress, and we are making progress, believe me.
Mr. Grewal.
6 years worth of progress, and we've got the highest crime rate, and we're still broke. I believe in those like SB 7 and those agreements. I think they're good for the community. It keeps jobs in town, in-house, and it keeps supporting the businesses that are here. And but we're going to have to go a little step further than that. We're going to have to really open it up. I mean, if we don't have an influx of more companies, we need a bigger tax base. And if we don't have a bigger tax base, we're going to end up in the same situation we are now. It's kind of like shooting yourself in the foot. You just keep taxing your own individuals, and pretty soon you have none left.
Thank you. The next question will be from Mr. Renison, directed to Mr. Grewal first.
Thank you. In the case of public employees, the employer is the taxpayer. The government code permits city councils to hold closed sessions when negotiating employee compensation and for collective bargaining, but the code does not prohibit councils from negotiating publicly. In the interest of fairness to taxpayers, would you support a process similar to that being considered by San Jose, whereby collective bargaining is done publicly instead of behind a closed door? If not, why not?
I would support openness. I mean, I'm a very truthful, kind-hearted person, and I believe in saying things that are truthful, and I don't see why the people have to wait for information. I think it can be said. I mean, people can take the reality of the situation. I mean, look at the suffering that we're going through. I would support open communications.
Mr. Holman.
No, I think I would not be for that. I believe that a meaningful negotiation is something that should be done without any possibility of any political influences. I believe that the process that we have now, it works. There's a process already in place that if you go to impasse, that you can go to court, and that you can, file injunctions or whatever you have to do in the labor code that's there already. If it gets that far, and if an agreement is made, it's made public anyway. You don't need to know the details of how you got there. You just need to know what you're going to compensate your employees with and how you're going to pay for it.
Thank you. Ms. Casanave, the next question first to Mr. Holman.
Thank you. There has been a lack of trust in all levels of government and elected officials. Only 24% of registered voters in San Joaquin County voted in the primary. How would you go about improving relations with Stockton citizens and encouraging their participation?
Is that to me?
Yes,
It's to me.
you first, yes.
Okay. That's how I have operated within my position here as a city councilman representing District 1. I put my cell phone number on my business card. When my constituents call, they get me. They don't get City Hall. I go out, and one of the things in being retired allows me to go to my constituents, and I meet them where they are. I meet them at their homes. I meet them wherever they are having the issue at. I go to the businesses that are operating. I stop in at their business. I sit down with them. I have a cup of coffee with them, and I talk to them. I believe that when you can look a man in the eye and you can talk to him face to face, I think that generates trust. And I'm all about trust. That's the way I operated as a law enforcement officer. Trust was the key to solving the kind of crimes that I solved in my tenure as a law enforcement officer, is that people trusted me because they could look me in the eye and they knew that they were getting the truth from me. So I think that is the only way that we can operate.
Mr. Grewal.
I would lead by example by always being truthful. I would listen to the people and what they had to say. I will listen to you when you're here. And that's, Mr. Holman, I feel, comes in with a ready-made decision before he even listens to you. And he says he does his homework, but 99% of the time, he's always just going with the decision of the staff. And I remember when I first came here to this council, I witnessed a lady approach the stand, and she started to cry because her son had been killed in a gang violence shooting. And as she was kind of pouring her heart out, I witnessed everybody up here was kind of ignoring and not very sensitive to what she had to say. And that touched me. And I went up to her after the thing, and I said, "Ma'am, I apologize for what's going on here, and I will make sure that your story is heard. And I'm telling you the story today."
Ms. Vigil, the next question, first to Mr. Grewal.
If elected, how much time a week would you dedicate to reading, understanding, and assessing agenda items that are included in your council packet prior to your city council meeting?
That's an easy one. Just like my campaign, I'm pretty much like 24/7 right now, and I'll probably be doing that if I make it to the council. I really do my homework. I've been a successful person because I really do the hard work, and I'm more of a worker than I am a talker, so you can expect that I will be an informed person when I come to the city council.
Mr. Holman.
I didn't wear my glasses all the time before I came on the council, but now I have to from eye strain. I spend my whole weekends, most weekends, reading staff reports, reading any information that I can. I don't only read staff reports and information, I actually go out and contact the people that my decisions are going to affect and get their perspective before I make a decision. It's been said that my decisions are already made. I've been on a number of 6-1 votes here in my during my tenure as a city councilman. I even came to one council meeting prepared to vote one way and changed my vote on the dais, which really turned things upside down on this council, and only because I heard information that came from right where you're sitting, Jane. People came up and told me stuff that I did not hear before, and I changed my mind on the dais and changed my vote. So I don't come to council meetings, no matter what, I don't know where that comes from, with my mind made up. I don't know if anybody's crawling around in my head and figuring out what I'm going to say, but I don't. I do my homework, and I try to make informed decisions.
The next question is from Mr. Renison, directed first to Mr. Holman.
Stockton developer Dan Court outlined a plan to help revitalize the downtown area by removing many of the parking meters, implementing diagonal parking spaces, and divesting of the parking district by selling the 3 major garages. Please share your thoughts on each of these 3 elements in this plan.
Well, I won't comment on the garages because the garages are part of the bankruptcy issue, but I think Dan Court has a good idea of what the downtown needs. I would not dismiss any of his suggestions or recommendations. So I have not studied that, the parking meter issue, but I don't think that that's something that's beyond the realm of possibility.
Mr. Grewal.
Downtown does need revitalization, but we have to sit down and really work it out thoroughly because we have a bigger problem. We have sewer lines to replace. It's not just on the outside, it's also on the inside. So it's going to take a lot of money to revitalize downtown. So we have to look at what we're into. And when we think about the parking meters, I'm tired of parking meters, but we need the revenue. So I'm with you guys. I hate parking meters, but we got to have the revenue. And if we can build more parking garages and open up some space, that'd be wonderful. And I'm willing to work with any committee that comes forward. I've actually worked and built subdivisions throughout the state of California, so I know what goes into this type of huge development. And I've been able to work with other city officials to come up with successful solutions. And one thing I found out is really difficult to work with Stockton, especially with their high fees and overbearing regulations.
The next question from Ms. Casanave? Yes, thank you. To Mr. Grewal first.
How would you address the quality of life issues in Stockton, especially in the southern oldest part of the city, as recently chronicled by the record?
The quality of life is very poor here in Stockton, especially walking from house to house. I got to experience it, and I got to meet people, and I got to see what their issues were and what they're facing. I mean, people are afraid to walk on their own streets and live in their own homes. We shouldn't have to live in fear on our own streets, in our own neighborhoods, in our own homes, and be scared to go to the grocery store afraid to go to the bank or for dinner or movie. We need a change. We need a change in our leadership. The number one responsibility of every city government is to provide police and fire protection, and they failed to fulfill that responsibility.
Mr. Holman?
I beg to differ with that statement. When I came on the council, we had a record number of homicides in the city of Stockton. Almost 70-something homicides. We lost 99 police officers. In the midst of all of that, the very next year, our homicide rate dropped 60%. Right today, our overall crime rate is down 12%. Our shootings are down 15. Our
Please.
shootings are down 15%. The homicide rate is up, but there are different types of homicide now. Our homicide rate is up in the sense that we're no longer experiencing the amount of gang homicides that we were experiencing. We're experiencing homicides that are coming from a different perspective. We're getting a lot of domestic violence type homicides. Homicide is not a crime where you can put a whole lot of officers on the street and prevent it. There are social issues. Unless you have a specific thing like gang homicides, there are enforcement issues that you can put together that can help quell that. And I think the police department has done a great job, and they're continually, you saw in the paper today, we got authorization to hire more police officers from the COPS grant. So it takes time to put more officers on the street, and we're working that. But in this environment, you're not going to do it instantly.
Ms. Vigil, the next question. First to Mr. Holman.
What would you like your legacy to say about you?
First, I want my legacy to say that I cared about my city, that I worked hard for my city, and that I did the best that I could for the city under the circumstances that I was working under. Like Mr. Grewal was so adamant in pointing out, I did retire. And after 34 years of working the streets of this city, I actually thought about getting on my white horse and riding over the hill and never coming back. But I was called, and I answered the bell when Stockton was at 20% unemployment, and when its fiscal coffers were almost empty. I was called to come and help make the decisions to help get this city back to where it needs to be. We're almost there. It's been a long 6 years. There have been a lot of decisions that have had to be made, some that kept me up at night, but yet they were made because they were the right decisions to make for this city. And I say stay tuned, because as we move along, my legacy is going to say that we worked hard and we accomplished a lot, and I think my legacy is going to say that we got the city of Stockton back on its feet after it was almost down.
Mr. Grewal.
My legacy would be that an immigrant came here, learned the language when he was 6 years old, grew up and lived the American dream, and it's truly an honor to even be able to sit in this chair today. And what I've done is always give back to the community. My parents always told me to be truthful, loyal, and always give back to the community. And as the surveillance pilot, I put hours and hours of community service, and I helped take the bad guys off the street. And this was totally free, just doing it because I care about this community. And now, when I go to my business and something is being stolen every day, and I have to worry about my employees, are they going to get shot or not? And I come home, I worry about my kids, and is my home going to be broken into with all this highest rate in crime? We had 71 crimes under his watch. And right now, currently, we're at 34. There's no improvement, and I'm worried, and that's why I'm stepping up.
Mr. Renison, this will be the last question, and I'm directed first to Mr. Grewal.
What are your views on forming a Standards and Ethics Committee to govern the actions of council members? If you support such a committee, who should serve? How would the committee identify wrongdoing? and what mechanism of enforcement would be used? If you oppose it, please tell us why.
Well, just like everybody else, I was tired of the bickering, and I was tired of the fighting and the going back and forth, and that's one of the reasons why I even stepped up, because I'm a team player. I can work with everybody. I think, you know, we don't need to be governing everybody. We need to work with everybody. We have to work together. If we don't work together, then nothing's going to be accomplished. Just more bickering and fighting, and more newspapers are going to be sold every day. But for a committee, to form a committee to see what people's actions are, that's kind of a tough call. That's just saying that everybody up here is irresponsible. In a way, I saw a lot what was going on, but I might be not in favor of forming a committee. I think the people that are up here should be responsible and show their leadership as their role models.
Mr. Holman.
I don't think that there should be a committee. I think that this body should be able to govern itself. But if you look back and you hear all this about there's been a lot of bickering and been a lot of fighting and all of this stuff, how in the world did we accomplish all the things that we've accomplished so far? How in the world did we get to the point where we've taken this city from the brink of not being able to make payroll to the point now where we're just about ready to get a decision from a judge in reference to our bankruptcy, which is going to put this city back where it needs to be? If we're bickering and fighting and doing all those things, how did we ever accomplish anything? We've come a long way. There was a lot of work to do to get this city both internally and externally fixed and where it needs to be. I've been a cop for 34 years. I can work for anybody. I have a history of being able to understand what the issue is. It's not about me. It's not about anybody that sits at this dais. It's about us serving you that are sitting out there, to the best of our abilities and making decisions that are being the best for this city as a whole. Not for individuals, but for the city as a whole. Sometimes your mother tells you got to take castor oil when you're sick. You know, hey, I don't want it. But you know what? It's going to make me well. And sometimes we had to give castor oil to the city. But in the long run, it's going to heal the pain, it's going to heal the wounds, and this city is going to get where it needs to be.
Thank you. We will now have the candidates' closing statements, beginning with Mr. Holman. 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. When I say I'm a lifelong resident of Stockton, I grew up in the most at-risk community in this city. I did not have a silver spoon in my mouth. My parents came to the city of Stockton in 1946. My dad worked as a dishwasher in the Stockton Hotel. My mother had no job. She cleaned houses, and eventually my father got a job at the city in the Public Works Department, where he worked till he retired. My mom went to school at Delta College and became a registered nurse. They bought their first house for $9,000, and they made payments on it for 30 years until they paid it off. I have 9 brothers and sisters. They all live here. They all work here. They're all part of this community. I have 2 children. One of them is here. I have 7 grandchildren. 3 of them are here. I came to this city not to get accolades and have my name in lights and have everybody call me Councilman Holman. I've been there, done that. I'm here because I care about this city. My opponent says that, I'm paid $1,000 in pension. Well, you know what? I paid into my pension form. And my medical that I got, I paid into my medical, and I'm paying for it now. I don't have free medical. When we talked about the cars that we bought, we didn't know that ordinance was written like that, but as soon as we found out about it, we amended the ordinance. It'll never happen again. Highest crime rate, we're not the highest crime rate. I guarantee you, talk to Chief Jones. He'll give you the straight scoop. Our crime rate is down overall. And the lady that he talked about, that he's so concerned about, the day her son got killed, not the day, but a few days afterwards, I was at her house. I was sitting in her living room. I was telling her about the condolences that I had for the loss of her child and how sorry we were that that happened. That's how I care about this city.
Mr. Grewal.
I also grew up underprivileged. I would never ask my parents for even a Christmas gift. I remember how tough times were. But this is a special time here in Stockton, and we've all come a long way. From paycheck to paycheck, it's been a hard struggle for all of us, and I believe that we have suffered long enough. We're in this situation today because of the bad decisions that were made in the recent past. Now, our children deserve to have a safer and brighter future, and together we can make a difference. Now, President John F. Kennedy said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." But now the question is what you can do for your city and your community. Because this is your city, your community, your home, and it belongs to you. So what are we going to do about it? We have to invest into our community's future, because what you guys decide today will affect your future tomorrow. So let's take back our streets, support our local businesses, strengthen our police departments for a safer, stronger, and more vibrant Stockton tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you all. Ms. Vigil, Ms. Cazenave, Mr. Renison, Mr. Holman, Mr. Grewal, thank you all for being with us this evening. And audience, thank you. I wanted to let the audience know that there will be easy voter guides in both English and Spanish outside the chambers in the lobby, and they provide a brief summary of the propositions on the ballot. These guides are provided by the League of Women Voters, and they're free. And don't forget to vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much.